Can I do that?
Yeah, once it's live here, we're going live on
I don't think
Instagram.
we're following each other though. Let's see.
Yeah, let's see here. Oh, I may have to redo the Instagram.
Oh,
All right. I'm going to have to go live on Instagram again. So, hello, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a minute. Thank you for joining us. And I'm excited to be here with Yifat. We're going to have an amazing conversation today. How are you today?
I am fantastic. Amazeballs. Activate.
Amazeballs. All right.
Amazeballs. Spaceballs, amazeballs. We're good.
You're in Austin today?
I am in Austin, and this glow is not the sweat after my workout. It's actually a bunch of makeup that you can't see on the screen for some weird reason.
Amazing. All right. Awesome. Well, looks like I might already be live on Instagram. Let's just go
Are you? Let's
find
see.
out.
No.
It's, you'll see here. It's telling me that I am.
All
but
these platforms.
I am not. All right. We're going to go ahead and go live on Instagram, folks. Give us a minute.
If you're watching us, tell us you're watching us. It'll be nice to know that you're watching us.
Yes. Yeah. If you are watching, please let us know in the chat.
And actually, what do you think about AI events? I would love to know what you guys think about AI events. Excited, scared, don't know anything about it, never heard anything about it, couldn't give out 2 cents about it. Is it even in your radar or events in your radar? What are you focusing on right now?
All right. All right. I think we're going to have to go without Instagram today because it is not working for me. Oh, here we are. We are live. We are live on Instagram. All right. Hello, everybody on Instagram. Hello, everybody on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. We are so excited today to be here. This is the first episode, live at least, of the Event Innovator Show. And I am very excited to have with me someone I've known for quite a while, but we, I think, just had our first conversation this week. And that is Yifat Cohen. She is the tech-savvy thought leadership catalyst. She transforms high six-figure entrepreneurs into industry visionaries through AI-enhanced, human-driven digital experiences that build trust, skyrocket engagement, and generate seven-figure revenues, all as a done-for-you service requiring just 1 hour of genius per month. Man, that's a mouthful there. We're going to literally unpack everything that's in that sentence over the next 45 to 60 minutes. I'm excited to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me. And it's such an honor to be the first one live. Yay. It's been a moment.
We've been doing this live for 4 months, but today is I'm pivoting. It was called the Unforgettable Experience Live Show, and we're going to start talking about it as the Event Innovator Show because I want to focus on innovative things that people are doing in the world of events that can help the startup event as well as the experienced event who's trying to pivot and stay on the cutting edge. And so you are here and you're an AI expert, which is very appropriate here in later 2024 to be talking about AI and how it might help events. So I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, me too. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Well, in your description, you call yourself a tech-savvy thought leadership catalyst. So can you explain how you use AI to enhance the human touch and to create powerful event experiences? What does that mean?
Yeah, so so I'm from Israel originally, and when I popped up into, got off the boat and came to America, there were things that I was saying in Hebrew that would just not translate, right? Like people would be like, huh? What do you mean? We never say that kind of stuff. So like, for example, when I graduated from UT and I invited people to my graduation party, I said, please come and honor me with your presence. And in Hebrew, it sounds like you're doing me the honor of showing up. But in English, it sounds like you honor me. I am the, queen of the
Mhm.
thing, and you come to honor me. So these little things, when you try to communicate, sometimes things get lost in translation. And AI is fantastic at taking all the mumble jumble in your head and actually putting it in a way that communicates the message without you trying to figure out, I'm saying it wrong, right? And so when you're an expert, when you're a real expert with real experience under your belt, you and I both know I'm a Bitcoin expert, I'm an AI expert, I'm a Facebook expert, like the Simpson coming in and out of the bush, right? I'm a Bitcoin expert, I'm an AI expert,
Right. Oh,
right?
yeah, we've seen them all, right?
Like every new trend, there's the same guy with a new thing. But when you are a real expert with real experience under your belt, you probably find that to be true is like you start talking to someone and you're so over their head because for you, the basics you already forgot. Like you already forgot what you already forgot. Right. And so it's so hard to stare in front of a motionless camera and try to communicate to the newbies, the people that, coming behind you about all the things that you've done that you already forgot that you've done. AI is fantastic in helping you think about those things of like, oh yeah, I forgot about that stuff. Oh yeah, this like will let me explain the basics, in a way that's easy to do that. We use it as a human prompter where we get those ideas and we come with our experts and we're going like, okay, Phil, so tell me about this one thing, right? It's going to be a startup question. And then from there, the human prompter gets curious and asks the questions and dives into emotions and does all these things. But AI is kind of like a fantastic trigger to kind of show you the points that you should talk about that the people behind you can kind of follow.
Talk to me a little bit more about that because that's really interesting. I love the phrase human prompter. That just caught my attention. I've never heard someone say it like that. I've heard, people talk about it as an amplifier. It makes us better at the things that we do, but human prompter to me sounds like AI is going to help you discover what are the questions, what are the things that you should be asking and remembering to ask consistently over time. Is that kind of what you're talking about? Like you and I forget the things that we tried 3 years ago, 5 years ago that worked. AI is never going to forget if you train it. Is that kind of what you're talking about, or is it something
Kinda,
different?
right? So let's take a step back. If you're here to build your brand and you're here to actually build thought leadership, so first of all, you're a real expert with real thoughts that you can actually share and make a difference
Okay.
by default, right? But then you need to start talking about the things that are changing the world, right? Like the effects that you want to have on people. And most of the time, you're starting from a point that for you is so basic, but it's like 5 years ahead of where people are because they
Oh,
haven't been through where you're going to, right? There's
yep.
so many times when I'm like, oh God, this is so basic, and people are like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, really? Would have not known. And so where we're using AI is to kind of like go like, these are the things that someone in that situation would want to know. The human prompter, moi, what we do for our clients is we take those and then we're talking to them face to face. So for example, you can go right now to Claude and say, hey, what is my target audience struggling with? And it will give you a bunch of stuff, right? You can take that and talk to the camera and create content. Everybody knows that. Nobody does it. Why?
Wow.
Why? Because biology. Because we need to talk to another person. We need to see their eyes. That's why you and I are doing this, right? You're not
Right.
creating content on your own.
Right.
And when the interviewer is super curious, really understands the topic and knows how to ask questions and listen, then the conversation becomes so beautiful because you can pull out the things out of the guest. And that's the human prompter. Without you, it's just going to be like step one, blah, 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 step two, blah, 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 step three, blah, blah, blah. And there are people who do that in podcasting. Great. Here are the 5 questions. Question one, question two. And then the
Right.
conversation doesn't go anywhere. Right. And
Right.
it's boring as hell. Like nobody wants to listen.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because in a way, I used AI as a human prompter for today's conversation, right?
Yeah.
I literally asked AI to go research a bunch of things about you and give me some potential questions that we could talk about today. We revised it. We removed some questions that were not quite spot on, and and then adapted it. But we're using it as a framework to prompt us. But we are going way off script already, and we're only a few minutes into the conversation. So I love it. I love it. Yeah, let's keep going here because you've got some interesting perspectives about events. And so I'd love to hear where you see the power of AI as it comes to events, and what do you think is going to be coming down the pike, as well as where have we come from? Go wherever you want with that.
I think there's two things that are happening online, and it kind of started with COVID, right? We lost trust in most everything we see online. So, do I get a shot? Do I not get a shot? Do I, do I put the mask? Do I not put the mask? Is it real? Is it not real? Now, with AI making everything so easy for every person to just take your picture and make you say things you've never said before, you'll never say before, right? And all of a sudden, did you see Trump and Kamala having a baby together? You're like, okay, now we know that's not real, but it looks so good, and it's just getting better and better and better, that online is going to become this thing where, like, yeah, I'm not sure. Let me ask my friends, right? And so instead of kind of like making content so easy to create, it's going to be like, I don't trust anything that I see online unless I trust the person that showed it to me. And I know they fact check, because fact checking is also very funny, a funny job. We didn't need fact checks before, right? Before COVID, there were no fact checks. Now we're fact checking. So, but I trust you, right, to know what you're doing. And so when you give me information, I go like, okay, that's valid. I can trust it. What does that do for businesses? What does that do for experts? What does that do for coaches and stuff? People who are, everything is, all their business is done online. Extremely difficult unless we communicate like this, face to face, or meet in person. I'm not trusting you, right? Unless you can be like, hey, we have someone in common, or we're part of a community or something. I'm like, what are you selling me, right? And I think events will have to shift in person again in order for us to actually connect as humans and build that emotional connection and go like, okay, Phil has my best interest in mind. If he's sharing something with me, he's not just trying to get me or scam me or just to make a buck, right? I trust him. And we refer and we talk and we do business. And I think AI will speed the way of us doing events, but also have to put a lot of the human element back into it.
So how do you see it putting the human element back in?
So there's two ways, one with technology and one in person.
Okay.
With technology, have you seen the holograph booth now?
Not a booth, but I've seen people using holographs at events.
So now there's like a booth where it's kind of like a TV.
Yes, actually I have. Yeah, at IMEX last year they had that. Yes.
Right. And so it's like you actually talking to a 3D person, face to face, and you're interacting with them. They're on the other side, they're on the screen. Right.
But they're actually physically somewhere else in the world. They're not in the room, but yes. Yeah.
But you're actually interacting with them, which is very different than this two-dimensional thing, right? You can actually sit down and you can talk, and it feels like you're in a room with other people. That's interesting, right? Because you can actually see me do stuff and you can comment about like, no, you're lifting it wrong. No, this is the other way. You can look over someone's shoulder and act as if you're in real time. But we're still missing the physical touch, right? We're still missing the games. We're still missing the interactive stuff, the icebreakers. So on one side, fantastic, we can bring people from all over the world. We don't need to fly. On the other side, we do need to fly because we need the, after party conversation around the bar, just joking and doing silly stuff. That's not in an event format. So that's how it's going to change. We have to combine both together.
Yeah, and I know we're not talking about virtual reality, but you reminded me of virtual reality in the Meta when they first changed their name to Meta, thought that's how we were going to do events. And I know people who are still prophesying that that's where events are going. People aren't going to travel. They're just going to put their goggles on and participate. But I think there's still something missing and that human connection that people long for. And I think that's why you're seeing a resurgence in events right now, is
Yeah,
people do long for that. But and I know we're going to talk about this a bit later, some of the ways that AI can help us as event planners and event owners and producers do a better job so that we have more time to focus on that human connection. It seems like that's one of the big powers. Would you agree?
totally. Um, I think at the end of the day, events are fantastic, but there has to be an outcome for it. And I think a lot of the events are kind of like, come see me talk. And you live with a bunch of, all these notes that you'll never take action on. Right. And we have to shift that to like, okay, let's do something. And that doing thing requires us to be together, do it. Kind of like that, was it Startup Weekend? Where people get
Yes.
in right?
Mhm.
They get in a room for like just a weekend and they build a company from scratch, brainstorming.
Yeah. Well, and it's a natural lead into the next question that I wanted to ask you. I asked my friends this yesterday online, and the responses were actually kind of mixed. It was
Oh,
interesting.
interesting.
But I said, which do you prefer when you go to an event? And let's assume for the moment that this is an event that you're learning at least for one day. So this isn't just a lunch session that people, stop in the middle of the day to go to, but it's in the middle of the day. Which one do you prefer? Lunch and learn, meaning that there's some kind of session going on while you eat. Lunch and network, meaning that you eat and talk. Maybe it's an organized conversation. Maybe it's totally spontaneous, whatever. That those are obviously two different options, but we'll call it lunch and networking. Or the third one is lunch and do. And I know which one you're going to choose, but tell me why you would pick the one of those three that you're going to choose, and let's go from there.
I want to hear the responses. Can I hear them first?
Well, yeah, I had people say they actually plan events where they do all three. They'll have options, one of each kind, maybe. I have people who prefer the lunch and learn because they're more introverted and they want to learn, and they find that once they do that, it opens up conversations. I have people that say, I like the lunch and network as long as it is an orchestrated networking. Like I want there to be some facilitation, make sure I'm having the right conversation with the right people. But if you do that, that's actually a good break for me in the middle of a day of learning. And then there's the people who are like, give me something to do, because as an introvert, when I do something, it's naturally going to open the door to talking. But you've given me something I can do with my hands. And so now I don't feel awkward about having to start a conversation with people that I don't know. So people see value in all three. I don't think there is a right answer. I do think there's probably better answers depending on your event. And then we could talk about if it's just a lunch session and that people are coming to, like, let's say you lived in Austin or New York City or wherever, and you're inviting people to come for 2 hours for a lunch and something session, which would you choose? Because that's a different event than what I'm talking about. But you go ahead. How would you respond?
So I feel that as business owners, then our time is extremely limited, and we always have a long to-do list, and there's always new things, and there's always this amazing stuff. For example, you and I know there is so many AI options, right, for image creation and video creation and writing and stuff. And it's like, which one do I use, and how do I use it? And then when I like something, that's all I want to do, right? Like that's my thing. And so when I come to a lunch and learn, I'll be like, okay, well, there's another thing that I can do. I have my flow. Let me keep my flow right now because I have my to-do list. When I come to lunch and network, I think that's more of a networking event, not necessarily just like um,
A
I don't
learning
know,
event.
yeah. But a lunch and do, which is my preferred method, is like I'm taking time out of my day to accomplish something, and I'm accomplishing it with other people that are trying to accomplish the same exact thing. Meaning, if I get stuck, I get answers right there and then. I don't need to email. I don't need to take the time off, and I don't need to wait until someone answers it to me or any of that stuff. I'm like, I'm here, and I'm just going to get this one thing done in this time. And so for me, as someone who has a very long to-do list and a kid that I have to take care of and fitness that I have to take care of and other events that I need to do, I want to maximize my time. And so I learn better by doing. I network better by helping other
Mm,
people. And
mm.
so if I can do a lunch and do, I learn from the actions that I'm doing. I'm helping other people. They're helping me. We're building this like, back and forth relationship of reciprocity. And then we finish with relationships and something under our belt that we can follow up with and be like, hey, we did this thing. How's it going for you?
Yeah. Remember the movie City Slickers? Did you ever watch that?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm forgetting the main actor's name, but there's this scene where he talks about knowing what your one thing is.
Mm,
And, and probably many people have talked about, do you know what your one thing is? There's this guy, a friend of mine was telling me recently about a guy named Carl who went to a conference, and he goes to these mastermind events. So like he pays high dollars for these high ticket masterminds. And he goes there and he sits in the back of the room, and and he's sitting there and listening. And then at some point in the event, long before it's over, he closes his notebook, he gets up and quietly leaves. He's never talked to anyone except for the event organizer. And she, after a while started to ask him, hey, are you leaving now? Are you coming back? And he said, well, I got my one thing, so now I'm going back. And the story unfolds that his team got tired of him coming back with his notebook full of shelf notes. I like to call them shelf notes.
yeah.
When you come back with your notebook full of notes and they go on the shelf and you never pull it down again.
Exactly.
But in his case, he didn't do that. He dumped it on the team and said, I want to do all these things. And they're like overwhelmed and scared of him going to an event because he's going to bring back 30 ideas and we have to do them all. So he realized he needed to pivot, and he needed to come up with the one big idea for his team. And then they would spend the next year working on it.
Yeah.
I think's profound. I don't love the fact that he left in the middle of the event, but I love the fact that he had the clarity to say, when I get my one thing, I'm good. And I think that's what the Lunch and Do does, is it gives you a chance to learn one new skill, one new idea, figure out how to do it, and go back. Is that kind of the way you set yours up?
Yeah. So when I set those up, I usually set them up as kind of like, okay, by the end of this, we're going to have X. So when I do a lunch and do, like a 5-day challenge, how do you build your brand with AI? By the end of these 5 days, you're going to have a video and 5 assets that are already scheduled to go out for your client in the voice and stuff. So by the end of it, you'll have that. You're not going to hear me do it. You're not going to see PowerPoints about it. There's no PowerPoints. It's like, hey, open up your computer, everybody together right now, go to this URL, put this prompt in, get that stuff. What comes out? Good, not good? Okay, let's work with it. When you're talking about that one thing, there's a formula for $1 million, right?
Okay.
Solve one specific problem for one specific person in one specific way. That's it. One problem. And I think most of us are so good at so many things that we're like a general practitioner trying to figure out why we're not making a specialist income. Because, I can help you with emails, and I can help you with this, and I can help you with this. But when you think about like, who's the funnels guy?
What's his name? ClickFunnels.
Yeah.
I'm blanking his name right now. Sorry.
Russell Branson.
Russell. Yeah.
Why? I say funnels, you think Russell.
Yep.
Why? I say, who's that motivation guy? Big on stages.
Guys.
Who's the big one? They did a Netflix about him. He's like, snapping you out of stuff.
I don't know who that is.
Tony Robbins.
Oh,
who's
Tony.
Who's the CEO that jumps from planes?
Who jumps from planes?
Jumps from planes, does all these extreme activities and all that stuff. Richard Branson?
Does he jump from planes? I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah. That doesn't surprise me, but I didn't know he did that.
They start with Y. Who's that guy?
Simon Sinek.
So there's this thing, right, in your brain. So if you're sitting around the dinner table and you're going like, dude, I don't know why I'm even doing this business. And you're like, oh, here's a book by Simon Sinek. Find your why.
Yep.
Right? If you're going like, oh, man, I feel like, like nothing is happening. Oh, dude, Russell was talking about modeling stuff that works. What works in your industry? Here's his book. It's for free. So the problem is most of us don't have that one thing that people think about us. They're not putting us in this little box. And so nobody ever refers to us and they don't think about us. And it's very difficult to get clients. right? Because we're all over the place. So $2 million, one specific problem, one specific person, one specific way. If you just focus on that, there's no shiny objects, there's just one word, there's just one audience. I was the G plus go to gal. Many people couldn't care less about Google Plus, right? But those who did, fantastic brand until Google had a bowel movement, right? But
as they've done before and since, right?
they're just now canceling the Chromecast. Have you seen that?
No, I did
Yeah,
not see
I'm like,
that.
come on, people. Like, eventually, it's not going to be OpenAI that takes you because better technology. It's because you breaking trust every step of the way. Can't
Yeah.
trust you to keep anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, rant over.
All right. Well, let's go with that one specific. What would you say? One specific thing, one specific person, in one specific
One
way.
specific problem,
Specific
one
problem.
specific person, one specific way of solving it. Right?
Of solving it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if that relates to this next question, but you talked about your $250,000 10-day situation where you took a dead list and revived it through a combination of AI and events, I believe. But tell us
So
the
it
story.
wasn't AI, it was gamification.
Gamification. Okay.
So what was fantastic about this, and I think this is even more applicable today in the age of AI, we see these guys and we see, like, let's say you see Alex Hormozy and you're going like, I'll never be him, right? So what's the point? Even if I take all these classes and even if I do that, he looks at the headline and he would say, oh, write it this way, and he knows how to do ads. I will never know how to do ads. I've tried. I watched the YouTubes. I took the $250 one. Nothing works for me. So why would I even invest $5,000 in it? So because where we are with the internet today, we don't doubt that you have achieved what you've achieved. I see the six pack. I see I see
Right.
all that stuff. I doubt you got it. I don't trust me to get it. And that guy, the $250,000, he is an 8-figure copywriter. So obviously, he writes copy and it works for him, right? But he still had a big list, like about 7,000 people on his list for 3 years. They would read it and they would never buy because, sure, he can do it. I cannot. And so what we did a lunch and do where we gamified it a little bit and we said, okay, day 1, do this one thing. Day 2, do this one thing and come on up and show me what you did. And I'm going to give you my feedback. And now go and post it and see what happens. Right. And then tomorrow, come back and tell me what happened to what we did yesterday. And we're going to continue and build on that for 10 days. On day 2, he's a marketer. And I was like, listen, for 5 days, we just give value. We're not asking for anything. There's no pitch. They're not buying anything. Just give value. On day 2, people were like, hey, can I buy your software? Can I buy it? Can I buy it? And he was like, Yifat told me not to tell you anything, so please hang out for like 5 more days. We're going to tell you how to do it. Don't worry. But the people were getting wins every day. And they go like, oh my God, I can do this. What else can I do? I can do this. What else can I do? Right. And then because of the gamification, it started going viral online. People were hashtagging and showing up. People waking up at like 3 a.m. from Australia, showing up, coming from car lots, like, hey, I want to go, but I need to see this because it was so awesome. And took a completely dead list, no affiliates, no nothing, no ads, turn it into $250,000 because it built the trust, right, in the user to be like, I thought I will never be able to get views on my video. I posted a video and all of a sudden I got 10 views. Dude, this is amazing. What if I keep at it? And that's where the lunch and do's come in, right? You need to give people a little bit of a win for them to get this sense of like, oh my God, I can actually do this, right? I do Krav Maga. It's amazing to me how the instructor will show what to do. He will show what not to do, how to do it wrong. He will ask, is there any questions? Everybody will say no. And then we try to apply it and we get it wrong.
Right.
So you have to get your hands dirty, right, in everything. And most people are, what do you call it, analysis paralysis. They're in the learning mode. Oh my God, there's this. I'm learning. and it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, I think for a long time with AI, let's just use that as an example. And I love that story. I love the idea of getting quick wins. And I think events that give people a quick win or something that they do, and we always tell speakers, give people something they can go do today. And don't make it a theoretical session.
Yeah,
Give them something practical that they could do today or tomorrow, or as soon as they get back to the office, depending on the complexity of what it is. But you've made it so simple that they can go do it now. Now, the problem is if you go to 10 sessions, they all do that. You're probably not going to do all 10. So it's great if you actually did it during the session. Like you
exactly.
got that win right there, or as soon as it's over, you got the wins. Like, oh, I could do this. And by the way, we should come up with something in this interview right now that people can do. I'm going to put you on the spot. We're going to come up with something with AI that people could go do as a result of listening to this episode that's going to help their events become more human focused. All right. So use AI to come up with a human prompt. I'm going to put that in your brain. We'll come back to it. But we can't leave people without an action. If that's like your thing,
That
we've
is my
got to
thing.
give them something to do. So
Yep.
I'll give you a little bit of time for that to process in the back of your brain.
I know, like on the
So one of the things that you talk about is a Zoom's sales engine.
yeah.
And Zooms are events, right? People are coming together online. They're having conversations with each other. It is an event of sorts, but you use that to generate 7-figure revenues. And how does that work?
So most people are coming from the world of webinars, right? And
Mhm.
they're still doing this thing of like, you come in and you watch me with my PowerPoints and then you leave. And then by the end of it, I'm going to have my close. But wait, there's one more and there's another bonus and then there's stack and there's all this thing, right? And then all the emails are like, last call, the last chance, last chance. And nobody likes that, right?
Mhm.
So we need to shift that. We need to shift it into giving wins. And so this is something that Alex Hermosi was talking about, giving public, selling private, right?
Mm, mm.
The way we do it is we're going like, okay, what is the biggest pain point? Your shirt is burning right now, right? You're like, okay, how do I put this fire out? What is this shirt burning that your audience experiences right now? So one of my clients, he's helping small businesses with taking money. They don't know how to, like, some of them are still doing receipts by hand and stuff like that. They don't have anything automated. They're chasing people for their credit cards. They don't have any recurring. They don't have any systems at all. No follow-ups, no SMS, no nothing, right? And we're like, okay, so the session is going to be about how do you, as a small business owner, uh, get paid every month without calling your clients. Everybody shows up, right? And then we only spend 10 minutes. This is how you do it. That's it. That's the one thing that I'm going to help you. This is how you do it. Everybody opened up your thing, sign up here, do this thing, blah, blah, blah. Done. In the next 40 minutes, we're just going like, questions. And then Phil goes like, wait, but I am not using this merchant account. What do I do in my case? Help them solve the problem. Then the other person, hey, I do blah, 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 blah. Perfect. Help them for real solve the problem. Don't tell them buy my shit. Actually help them solve the problem, right? Session is over. It's done. All your content is now these questions. This is what you go to the AI to say. What are my clients struggling with? Well, guess what? They just told you. And guess
Right.
what you have on video? You answering it. Meaning all their clients have the same exact questions. Now you have the content of you being a trusted advisor, given in public. No sales, no pitch, no buy my shit, nothing. Done. By the end of it, you follow up with everybody who registered and just go like, hey Phil, so you said you had a problem with accepting money, right? Did I solve your problem? That's it. And you go like, yeah, you did. This is so awesome. I'm like, fantastic. Did you implement it? Well, that becomes the sales call. Did I solve your problem? No, you didn't because I have blah. Okay, sales call, right? So the follow up can be done automatically with AI and follow up SMSs connecting to your CRM that leads them to a live salesperson, or it can be a live salesperson calling people and following up. But the entire point of this entire thing is like, let me actually help you in real time, because up until now you've been here reading all these things, not doing anything because you were afraid that you're going to do it wrong. So I'm going to help you. When you share that online, now what other people see? Hey, in our last Zoom session, we did this. If you have another question, we're doing another one next month. And it starts to become this thing where people are joining, like, oh, I know he's going to solve my question. It becomes this engine that starts running, where the sales are on the back end, paying for the marketing on the front end, and people are more likely to buy because they had an experience of like, you solve this problem, now I have all these other problems. Can you solve them too?
I love that. That's so powerful in many ways, because like you are building that trust with the customer. They're going to trust you even more because you solved one problem. They're far less likely to go to your competitor because they now have a connection with you. You have content that you could splice up that Zoom and you literally use every one of those interactions, but also you could take those questions and say, well, these are the common questions. I'm going to create 10 more pieces of content answering that question. So you've got a content engine that came out of it. And I love your follow-up idea there. That's so powerful
And very simple,
and
right?
not
Because
hard
it's
to
so
do, right?
human. Yeah, it's this is what you would do to a good friend, right? If someone came to you and said, hey, I'm
Mm,
trying to figure out this one thing, you'll be like, sure, let me help you out. And
yeah,
then you'll be like, did I help you? Yeah. And then what does the friend do? Someone else gets stuck. Oh, Ifat helped me. Go talk to Ifat. She helped me with that. And you get
yeah,
these referrals.
yeah. No, it's great. It's a referral engine. It's got so many ramifications. I absolutely love it. Look, we've got a bunch of questions about AI that we were going to talk about from here to the end, but I think I would rather do this. I want you to teach us how to do something with AI that is a real problem that event producers have, that's going to make our lives easier so that we can be focused on human problems. And because you produce your own events, I'm going to let you decide what that problem is. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but you're very sharp and on your feet. So I know you can handle this. So how would you teach me something that's also going to be for the audience? Like, you're going to teach me how to do something that maybe I don't know how to do yet. And hopefully the audience is also going to learn from this. And this will be something that by the end, maybe I can actually go do it, or I will go do it as soon as we're done. I'll confirm in the notes of this episode that it worked. So
Awesome.
where do
So,
you
okay,
want?
so before I dump something on you, what is your biggest struggle with what you're trying to do?
I would say for me, well, I'm gonna use a client that I'm serving, and I'd say it's getting people to register for the event. Like, that is a big need, and people are waiting till the last minute to register. It creates a lot of panic when you're expecting a certain number of people, and you're only 30% or 40% of the way there, and you've got limited time. That's a big challenge. And so we need people in the room so that we can deliver the experience that we're planning. That one's huge for me. If that's not one you can solve, I've got another one, but I'll let you respond. Is that something that
Well,
you could help
like,
with?
give me the other one and let's see which one is.
Well, the one thing that I've thought about, and this is something I think every event producer can probably relate to, is what if AI could become like my virtual assistant? What would I
In
be
what
able to
way?
do?
In like emails and stuff like that, or
Um, Keeping me organized, helping me create the task list. For me as an author, I've got 16 chapters in my book, and there's probably 1,000 things in there that if I could codify it and make it easier for me to remember, but therefore easier for other people to remember, then when I'm putting on the event, it's just a matter of, okay, did we think about this? Has someone taken care of this? We can assign it. And I've now made it easier to remember the things that just need to be remembered, so that then I can actually focus on the things that should be taking my creativity instead of reinventing the wheel. So I know I
yeah.
spend a lot of time reinventing the wheel because I forget that I already wrote about it somewhere, or I've done this before.
So is it a matter of like where did I put the information, or is it a matter of like actually having to put the information?
um, for me, and I'm not the typical event planner because I'm highly creative. For me, that's not, my brain doesn't go there. My brain loves solving new problems. So I create new problems and I think it's new. But when in fact it's like 95% the same as the last time. and we could start with what we did last time if I only remembered that we did this before. So I'm probably unique in that way, because I think a lot of other event planners are much more detailed than I am, and they probably remember, and they maybe even created their own checklists.
So they have SOPs and all that stuff. So you're talking about someone with no SOPs.
Someone with no SOPs. So like, let's take, the startup event person, because that's one of the people in our audience. Is people doing an event for the first time, or maybe it's the second time. They're in that startup phase of getting an event off the ground. They don't have all their SOPs in place. They're trying to figure out what are the things that they value, what are the things that are important, and wanting to learn from it. So there's a lot of things that are new. How do we help that person with AI?
So the first thing I would say is that we are suffering from the PhD disease, where we're coming as a PhD to a first grader, and we say, here's an amazing book, let's read it. You start reading the first page, and it's like, I don't know how to read, right? Like, I don't know. It's like, what do you mean you don't have to read? A, B, C, D. It's like, yeah, I'm a first grader. I don't know anything. And the main issue that I had with my event is that I think I'm not giving enough value, because everything that I'm working on is so basic, where it's like, dude, this is way too much, right? And so I cramp. I was like, dude, first hour, we're going to get this done. And then the second hour, we're going to go that one. Then we're going to do a quick lunch. And then we're going to go. And people don't retain information that way, right? So we have to have one task for the day, the main task, and then break it out to like smaller tasks. So by the end of the day, we just did this one little thing, but they feel like they ran a marathon, right? So that would be the first one. So the first thing that I would do is go to AI and say, my goal is to deliver X, right? Break it down to however many hours you have, right? Now break it down even more. Now break it down even more. Now break it down even more, right? And then help me actually structure it so that there's 15-minute breaks and there's an activity and all that stuff. You as the expert can look at it and be like, that's a good flow, not a good flow, right? And then you can take everything they gave you and be like, okay, now turn that into a to-do list. What are all the things that I need to do right now to make this happen? I'll give it to you. What else did you forget to tell me? Is there anything else that you need to add to this that I have, that you haven't talked about? Keeping in mind that AI hallucinates a lot, right? But if you keep going like, did you forget? Is there anything else? It will make up shit. And the making up stuff is fantastic for you, because it will trigger things in your brain. Go like, oh yeah, that's actually a good idea. I didn't think about that. So it's like you're having like a brainstorming buddy, relying on your experience, right? Like this is the important part. If you don't have any experience, you need to have some experience. And if you don't have experience, this is how you learn. This is how you get experience, right? Which is fine. Do it on a small scale, then do it on a bigger one.
Can I stop you for a second? Because I think if I'm hearing you right, what you're suggesting is let AI help you build the ideal schedule for your event, but doing it conversationally, starting with, okay, here's the audience that's coming. You didn't say this, but I'm going to just kind of put it in my own vocabulary. Yeah. Here's the person or the type of person that's coming to this event. It's a marketer, and she's been marketing for a long time, but she needs to understand AI for marketing. She's coming to this 2-day event, and I need your help in designing a schedule that's going to help her understand the benefits of AI and some practical things that she could do with AI to make her job easier, so that she gets better results for her clients and for her company that she works for, so that she is a hero to both.
I would start a step before that, right?
Okay.
Because you're saying, why are people not signing up?
And okay, go back to that. They're not signing up yet. Okay.
And I think the reason people don't sign up is because they are not aware their shirt is burning.
Oh.
Right?
Okay. Right.
They're like, I have time.
You know their shirt's burning. It's like the back is burning, but they don't feel it yet. Okay.
And you're coming to AI and you say, she needs to learn this. Does she know she needs to learn this?
Okay.
Right? So we need to take a step before and say, like, this is the person that I have. What challenges? There's a prompt that I love, and it brings up the best stuff. And it's like, I'm going to butcher it because and I can give you the exact prompt afterwards, but it's like, give me 20 thoughts that Phil is thinking in his head. Give me 20 frustrations that Phil has in his head, telling himself in his head about AI. And it will give you the thoughts. It'll be like so in my world, when I do that, it'll be like, everybody seems to be an expert. How do I stand out? Why isn't my thing? I can pull it up if you want, but it's like, it gives you the inner thoughts of what keeps them up at night. And all you have to do is go back to your audience and be like, does that keep you up at night? Oh shit, my shirt is burning. Right?
Okay, so this is the human prompt part. So you're getting AI to give you potential things, and let's call your audience person Sally for right now, that Sally is staying up with at night. But you go to social media or maybe email her somewhere and say, "Is
Or maybe
this?"
a DM and going like, hey
Or a
Sally,
DM?
you've been in my list and stuff like that. I'm just wondering, is your shirt burning?
But
Holy
instead,
shit,
you're
it is.
saying, are you trying to stand out or whatever the thing was that AI gave you? And so you're basically testing those ideas in a variety of ways. And if you get the reaction, then okay, I need to lean more into this.
Yeah, and it's basically, so you can do it in two ways. One, put ads, and you can just basically see which ad wins, and you're like, okay, that's the pain point,
Right.
right? Or Ryan Levesque's ask method, right, where you just have a little survey and you ask people, what's the most important thing. The challenge that we all have is that, okay, I'll tell you this story. I call it, okay, imagine this. You eat bacon, right?
Yes.
I don't, but you eat bacon. Imagine you figured out the way to make the best bacon. It's crispy. It smells amazing. It's like every person who passes by your cart, they go like, "Oh my god, give me some, give me some. This is the best ever," right? And you're like, "My bacon, my bacon. It's the best bacon ever," right? And you take that cart and you put it in a vegan market,
Oh, yeah, that's not going to work.
right? So most of us are selling bacon to vegans, because we're going like, my bacon is so awesome, it will transform your life, not understanding that the person we're talking to, we didn't even ask them, do you eat bacon? Right? We didn't even have that conversation of like, is that actually something that you want in your world? We're just coming, dude, I found the best thing ever. It's just like every person who tastes it love it. It's the best thing, you got to try it. The reason I came up with this story is because I'm Jewish. I don't eat bacon, and my dad's son does. And when my son was like 4 or 5, I picked him up from his dad. He was in the car seat, little toddler, and he starts crying. And I was like, "Why are you crying?" And he's like, "I'm mad at God." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Bacon is so good, and it doesn't let you eat any." And it's that, right? When you have something so good, you want to share it with the whole world and think the whole world can use it. And you're trying to sell bacon to vegans, and you're going like, but why are they not buying? So AI can help you figure out who's my market, what's the pain point, what are they thinking at night, and then you have to go and validate that. You have to go and be like, hey, Phil, are you a bacon eater? Yeah, okay, I got something awesome. No, okay, no problem. Hey, nice to meet you. Want some coffee? Right? But the conversation has to change based on your needs and what you're doing, and not based on my event. And I think my thing is going to change the world. And how come you're not showing up?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm just thinking about this event that I'm helping with, and AI is one of the topics. And I'm going to guess, knowing their target audience, and I won't reveal the details, that their target audience isn't even thinking about AI. They're using it because some of the software they're using has AI embedded in it, but they're not thinking about AI. And so they don't even realize they need it yet. So to your point, they don't know that their shirt's on fire, and it's probably several layers removed. And I'm going to remember that phrase, don't sell bacon in a vegan market. Like, that is a powerful image, and we're probably all guilty of it because we've got this thing that we're absolutely in love with that we think everybody needs. And in fact, they don't. or it's the PhD to the kindergartner analogy that you use. Like, I wrote a book on event experience, and it's easy for me to go in and think they need to know everything that I discovered. And I know that mine's probably more like a master's thesis, not a PhD, because there's so much more that I have to learn, or I need multiple PhDs. Like there's so much more I want to keep learning and writing. But the person who's starting the event, they just want to know, how do I make sure people show up and that I make a profit, or at least I don't lose my shirt. That's,
Right.
I want to make sure people come back, they have a good time. They don't need to know the whole science behind all this stuff. Like, give me the basics and we can build on it later. So that's powerful. I love it. So back to your story, or the prompt that you did. Tell me 20 questions that Phil's struggling with, or that keeping him awake.
I can pull it up if you want.
Well, no, I don't need the answers. Oh yeah, if you want to give us the exact prompt, yeah, go for it. Why don't you look it up? I will ask a question while you're looking for it.
Yes.
So what I think you're doing before that step, before that prompt, is you're making sure AI understands who is Phil in your example. Like, Phil is this, and this. This is what he does for a living. This, you're trying to give as many psychographics as you can so that AI has a pretty good picture of who that avatar is. Is that fair?
Kinda. So yeah. Okay. So when AI first came out, was it like a year ago or something, right? A year, 2 years ago?
Almost 2 years. Like
2 years ago, right?
December of 22, right? When ChatGPT came out. AI has been around a lot longer than that. But
yeah, when ChatGPT came out, the hardest thing was, and I think this is the hardest thing for anyone, and that's why we're not doing it. The hardest thing is know your audience. If you remember back then, right, we would sit with like the paper on the wall and try to figure out what pain and frustrations and desires and fears and all that stuff, right? And we'll map it up. It'll be a week and go back and forth, and then we'll test it up. Now AI can shorten all that stuff. The hard part is to tell AI, I'm only talking to this one problem, one avatar, one solution. It's hard for us to focus. So we can have AI help us with this thing. Be like, I'm this person, right? These are the things who might be my audience, right? And then and then get that, and then be like, so okay, let's play with this a little bit. This might be my audience. Let's explore that a little bit. And you can converse with AI to help you really narrow your focus, instead of telling it like, my audience is blah blah blah. Maybe you're wrong, right? My problem was, I don't want to work with marketers or coaches, because I've met enough marketers to know that many of them know how to market, but that's it, right? They're not a real expert. And I worked with enough coaches to be like, oh, so you lost, 200 pounds. Now you're an expert in losing weight and nutrition and all that stuff. Come on. So I'm trying to stay away from, the, what do you call it, overnight expert. So it was very hard for me to be like, okay, who do I want to work with? And I used AI to help me figure out, right, like who my avatar might be, what are they up to, what are they interested in. And some of it kind of like goes to Seth Godin thing. People like us do things like this. That's how you create a movement, right? People like us do things like this. Because when you talk about the things that you love, you're going to attract all the Bible lovers, right? Because you're a Bible, and you're going to reject all the people who are not. And look at that, you're talking to your audience, because your audience want to talk about the Bible, right? But if you're going like, I want to talk to someone who's like that, you might not speak their language. So AI can help you figure out who your avatar is, what the problem, frustrations, and we have a whole tree that we go through. If you guys want to do that, we're doing it at the end of the month in 8 days. We actually go through this entire experience. But we have a tree that kind of like breaks down. Okay, this is the first thing. This is how they're doing it. This is what they're struggling with. This is the persona. And then when we have the persona, the prompt is, give me 20 commonly used phrases that people use when describing their frustration with, let's say, AI, that your avatar echoes in her own head. And I can tell you when I did that, it came up with, you might resonate with this. I'm spinning my wheels, but not getting any traction. Everyone seems to be an expert these days. How do I stand out? I'm doing all the right things, but my conversion rates are still flat. Am I just shouting into the voice, to the void? I feel like I'm always playing catch up with the latest trends. Why isn't my content resonating like it used to? I'm drowning in data, but starving for insights. How do I turn my knowledge into real influence? So these are questions that's like, it's not, highfalutin stuff that
Yeah.
it's actually things that people going in their mind, right?
Yeah.
And if you start like, okay, so now I have this. So now how do I answer it? I have a framework. I call it the Impact Juice framework, where it teaches you how to tell a story and how to ask people, how to be a human prompter. But that's basically it. Find out what the pain point is, who's the avatar, what specific way, find out what's in their head, and be like, I have a fire truck. you're burning. Do you want my fire truck? That's it.
Yeah. This is solid gold for all of us who plan events, because the better we understand that person walking in the door and what they're struggling with, the better we can design an event that's going to satisfy what they need. And they're obviously multidimensional people. They have multiple sets of needs. But what you're calling us to do is, let's find out what that core thing is. What is that one burning fire issue that they need? And there might be 3 or 4 representations of it depending on how big your event is, but if you can find that one thing and solve for that, you're going to help some people so dramatically that, like you said earlier, that could be your $1 million client. You may end up having 20% of 1,000-person event that come back, but those were the people that you were meant to serve in the first place, and it helps you realize, what, we need more people like that next year. Now we understand this is who we're really for. I love that methodology. I know we're getting to the end of our time. And so I would love to know, what's a website where people can go learn not only about the event that you've got coming up at the end of this month, because some people are going to listen to this in future months. So where would you send people to learn more about the things that you're doing? And I'm going to put it up here on the screen when you tell me.
Daretoactivate.com, because I found that most of us are in our fear and we're not doing anything. And I was like, okay, if we can activate our passion back again and all these things, I'm daring you to do that. So
you said dare to activate, or
dare? Yeah, dare,
like
number 2, the number 2. And then
I'm glad we clarified this. Dare to activate. Is this right? Let's show it here. Is that correct?
Right. Yes. Daretoactivate.com. And if you guys want to actually do this together, /challenge, we are doing that at the end of the month. The one thing that I will tell you is, like, when I started asking people about like content and branding, I thought everybody was like, yeah, sure, I just need to know how to. And what I didn't realize is that they're not doing it, not because they don't know how, is because they're afraid to be wrong. And
interesting. Okay.
Right. It wasn't even the fear of like, well, I can, I know how to record, I know how to do that. But I'm stuttering. I don't know how I sound. I don't like how I look. I'm afraid of what people will say. Like this fear of what will happen once I put a video out there. I'm not speaking well enough. I'm not doing the thing. It's just that the fear of personal judgment, right? So if that's what's holding you back, okay, let's solve for that. But nobody wants to talk about like branding and all that stuff if they don't have this core fear solved first, right? And I'm talking about like, oh my God, you can do all these things, nobody gives a shit. Like, they'll never do it, right? Never. Because they're afraid of looking bad, sounding bad, not presentable, different language, So I would highly recommend going back first, talking to your audience, and going like, tell me about your burning shirt.
Yeah.
Okay? That's it.
Yeah. No, this has been highly practical. I think this is something we can all go do, and don't get lost in all the other things that you can do. Use AI, folks, to go and solve that question. Who is my avatar and what are they wrestling with? If that's the only thing you take away from this interview, All the other things she talked about earlier with knowing the one person, the one problem, and the one solution, that's going to come out of this.
Yeah.
If you get clear on this, you're going to be able to figure it out. And AI can keep you focused. Those of us who are creative and have 1,000 ideas, it can help us stay focused on, now this is the person you're solving for, and this is the issue they're dealing with. Now let's use your creativity to figure out what's going to be the best solution for that problem. And then once we land on what it is, so there's testing. It sounds to me like that we're continually testing and refining until we kind of land that plane. But I love this process. I love the takeaway. I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
And if I can, I'm going to come join you at the end of the month. We'll see how that goes. I always end these calls with what I call my signature sign off or a saxophonic moment. So I'd love for you at this point to give me a couple of words that kind of summarize this conversation that we've had. And then I'm going to play a response to it, and we'll close our time out. So give me a couple of words.
Okay. I am always about taking action. Action is the main thing that I focus on. So I would dare you, take action, activate, do something with it. Don't just be stuck in analysis paralysis. So activate. That's my word.
Activate. And I'm gonna use daring. Like, let's be bold and let's take action. All right. So this is gonna be daring. I'm gonna try something I've never tried before. As I play right now. You wouldn't know if it is or not, but I know for myself it'll be that. And then we'll go from there. And by the way, I think we've got a comment here. All right, here we go.
Where's the woo?
All right. Well, thank you again for joining me. Thank you everyone for listening. Please do go follow Yifat at daretoactivate.com. And if you can, go do the challenge. You can follow me at philmershon.com. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.